Route 66 once carried millions of travelers through desert towns and roadside diners. That changed when the interstate system bypassed these communities, leaving the old highway to decay into a collection of isolated outposts. This shift left thousands of motels stranded. Many now sit abandoned beside the road, characterized by faded vacancy signs and cracked, empty swimming pools that most travelers pass without a second glance. For those driving alone late at night, these remote motels often become the only option when exhaustion makes it dangerous to continue. You trade the safety of the open road for whatever shelter is closest. The motel experience relies on a thin illusion of privacy. You are staying in a room where a stranger slept the night before, separated from whoever is currently awake on the other side of the wall by only a few inches of drywall and wood paneling. The physical architecture of these buildings, the shared walkways, the thin partitions, and the remote locations, removes the standard boundaries travelers use to feel secure. In these spaces, your proximity to others is fixed by the layout of the building rather than your own choice. In 2019, a traveler named Tyler found himself in northern Arizona at 11:30 p.m. He checked into a roadside motel that looked nearly abandoned, with only 3 cars parked outside 20 rooms. Tyler was assigned room 12. It had the standard sensory details of a budget motel: wood-paneled walls, a noisy air conditioner, and old carpet that smelled of dust and age. At 2 a.m., he was woken by 3 knocks on the wall coming from room 11. He knocked back once to signal his annoyance, and the response was immediate: 3 violent hits against the drywall. A muffled man's voice asked, "Can you open it?" Behind the window curtains, Tyler discovered a narrow door, painted the same color as the wall. He watched as the doorknob slowly moved, testing the lock while the voice whispered, "I know you're in there." Tyler waited until sunrise and confronted the manager about the guest in room 11. The man stared at him for several seconds before stating that room 11 no longer had a door. Outside, Tyler saw that the window to the room next to his had been completely boarded over. The connecting door he'd watched from the inside led to a space that had been physically sealed off from the rest of the motel. In New Mexico, a traveler named Rachel and her sister stopped at a horseshoe-shaped motor lodge to escape a severe thunderstorm. In this design, every room door opens directly onto the parking lot. Around midnight, Rachel walked 50 yards through the quiet parking lot to reach an ice machine located beneath an outdoor staircase. While she filled the bucket, she saw a man leaning against the second-floor railing, watching her. By the time she looked back up, he had disappeared. 20 minutes later, Rachel saw a shadow move across the gap beneath her door. A piece of paper slid into the room with a handwritten note: "You dropped your room key." Her key was still on the table. When the room phone rang moments later, she heard only heavy breathing before a voice whispered, "Wrong room." The exterior door layout of these motels allows anyone on the property to monitor the movements of guests. Rachel was observed, she was followed, and directly contacted, without the stranger forcing entry. The next morning, the clerk informed Rachel that the entire second floor had been locked for renovations. There was no way for anyone to be standing on the walkway where she had seen the man. The security camera facing the ice machine had stopped recording at 11:47 p.m. The feed went to static 7 minutes before Rachel walked outside to get ice. The failure of the physical locks on the second floor and the disruption of the surveillance system left the sisters with no way to identify who had been watching them. Driving through western Oklahoma at 1 a.m., a man named Daniel saw a 1950s-era motel sign glowing beside an old section of Route 66. He paid $40 in cash to an older woman in the office and took the key to room 6. The room smelled strongly of dust, and when he tried the lights, he discovered the power was out. Daniel returned to the office, but the lights were off and the door was locked. Using his phone as a flashlight, he saw a legal notice taped to the glass. The property had been condemned 8 months earlier. As the neon vacancy sign went dark, Daniel heard a series of clicks. Every door on the walkway began to open in sequence, starting with room 1 and moving toward room 6. At a nearby gas station, a cashier recognized the description. The motel had been closed since an electrical fire. He pointed to a vintage photo from the 1970s, showing the same building with the words "Room 6 available" on the marquee. Roadside motels are transient spaces. You arrive, you sleep, and you leave. Most travelers never know the history of the room they stayed in, or if the person who gave them the key was the person supposed to be behind the desk.